Carlton King, the former Scotland Yard Special Branch and MI6 officer and the author of Black Ops.
I was undercover for Special Branch in a jihadi organisation.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe for free.
My name is Carlton King, and welcome to the Black Spy podcast, the show that shines a light on the world of secret intelligence, national security, and armed governmental personal protection operations, but actually really shines a light on the world of geopolitics, the world that affects us all. And this is what we want to talk about today, because actually, in many ways, we are driven, I believe, and I'm coming more and more to this, by what the press puts out there. So today, I've got my two favourite ladies once again, Madame, wife, Fergus Isaac. I'm giving you a Madame on top of your wife there, Madame Fergus, and my what word should I use? My mistress.
I'm going to jump in here, Carlton. I'm going to jump in because a listener, right? I think you two might like this. Okay, a listener came up with this. They called it, wait for it, the Triangle of Truth.
Oh, brilliant! Love it! Triangle of Truth. That's it.
Yeah. So I'm saying hello. I'm saying it's also today, the day that we're recording this today, which is not the same day as it will be aired, but the day we're recording this is actually my birthday. It was Dr. Rachel's birthday.
Happy birthday!
And so what better way to spend it than being part of the Triangle of Truth?
Absolutely, a Triangle of Truth. And Doc, Rachel, how are you?
Oh, well, I managed to survive my birthday.
Yeah, with your tin hat on.
Yeah, with my tin foil hat on. Yeah, we went up in the world. I got Marks and Spencer's foil this
Brilliant.
year. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
Swanky.
So, Fergus, outline what we're going to talk about today, because I should say very quickly, I'm not just racing everybody. It's that this will be quite a short episode. And I just want Fergus to explain what we'll do, but it'll be in two parts. So, go ahead, Fergus.
No problem at all. So, listeners might remember that on 2 weeks ago, I mentioned at some point in the chat, we spoke about media moments. We spoke about calendar days, awareness days, days that exist in the calendar that the media jump on for better or for worse. The other 2 points of the Triangle of Truth, we're very vocal about this, shall we say. I was about to use the word decimated me, but actually I'm going to say they were very vocal. They made very valid points. So I thought, let's just unpack this a little bit, because actually this isn't me standing up for the media. This is exploring what is actually quite an interesting phenomenon that has that's grown and developed into something that's gone from, I would say, the sublime to the ridiculous to everything in between. I mean, just to preface this, right, so on top of being my birthday, it's also National Pie Day in the UK today. Tomorrow is National Peanut Butter Day.
It's gone stupid.
Once we get into the weekend, we're looking at Burns Night, and then Australia Day. Slightly more seriously, Holocaust Memorial Day, Parent Mental Health Day, and then, to round off the week, we've got National Kazoo Day.
Follow the money.
Follow the money, right? Next week we've got Draw a Dinosaur Day, National Croissant Day, National Storytelling Week, Bug Busting Day. So look, you know, these things are in the diary. They're a thing, right? I mean, you know, that they are a thing. They're not connected to the news agenda. They are something that that they are days that exist. Now, you and I, anybody, any of us could set up our own awareness day if we wanted to. You know, I mean, it's absolutely possible. You know, it's just about you know, as to Carlton's point, follow the money. To you know, to Dr. Rachel's point, you know, what is the point, right? Exactly. Anyway, so that's the topic.
Okay, kick me off with one of those days that you find sensible.
Well, look, let's just think about the, you know, I'm being slightly flippant at the moment, but there are a lot of health-based awareness days, right? Mm-hmm. And actually, given the amount of royals that are in Hostel this week, you know, I'm amazed that the cancer awareness and prostate awareness and whatever it is that Kate's having, you know, secret, you know,
liposuction or something, yeah. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, and you know, let's not forget the backlash about the, you know, jumping the waiting list awareness day. You know, you know, I'm being slightly flippant, but at the same time, you know, there are poignant health-based awareness days, such as World Mental Health Day, or, you know, Genes for Genes Day, or Stand Up for Cancer, or whatever, right? And those things exist, and the media put time and effort and column inches behind these days being there, but and I can already feel the anger seething up within Dr. Rachel, you know, like even the words awareness day, when you come to something health based or health created, should we call it? So I will hand the floor to you.
Well, you know, I just want to, at this point, I'll answer your question, but I do want to say my personal favourite is Talk Like a Pirate Day on the 19th September.
No, that's not a real day. But that's not a real day, is it?
No, it is. It is a real day. But no, God, the thing is though, did you not think though this week, right? The thing with the Hoofy pirates, right? Like you know, Talk Like a Pirate Day sort of suddenly has become a whole new thing, right? Yeah. You know, so like the Yemen pirates, you know, that have taken to TikTok and you know, they're now sort of social media experts, as it were. But you know, but the problem is like they're sort of glamorizing piracy, aren't they, in so many ways?
But this is the same thing for, you know, for every sort of for me, they're indulgence days. In that, you know, you're quite right. I do end up seething with anger. I'm surprised I'm still alive with how angry I've got. You know, just the whole load of nonsense, and it really gets to me, because when we have awareness days, it's like highlighted. Everybody jumps on the bandwagon for a day. They'll post a picture on Instagram. They'll like somebody's story. You know, everything like that. And then the day after, it's like, what's next? What's next? What other thing can I hitch my wagon to? And it's like, we have to think about, what are we doing when we have awareness days as such? We're literally giving ourselves permission not to think about the human state between the different days. Now, even on significant days, you know, the sort of mental health days, and, you know, stand up to cancer, it's like we're highlighting something. We're playing on people's emotions, generally to get money. but we're not doing much after that. And certainly most people are sleepwalking through life. So for me, it's yet another example of how the media is used to sort of program people, condition people, and allow people not to do any thinking for themselves. Now, any of these days, I want to sort of do an antithesis. I want to be like the stand against. I want to stand against that day, and it's because I believe in humanity. I believe in human beings, and I can see such a toxic environment that really we should be addressing that. We should be addressing why we have over 70% of children with rickets in primary school, which was reported this week. We should be looking at why the council where I live chose to play really loud music so that somebody who was homeless couldn't sleep. Why we not got that kind of day? Why are we not addressing that every day? We should be being human. We shouldn't need specific days to remind us that other people need help. I think that's why I get so angry about it.
Just to jump in very, very quickly and to expand it into a even wider geopolitics. I say follow the money, and I don't say that flippantly in any way, shape or means, because I think that's basically what makes the world function. But there's another element to it, and because things are complex and not necessarily always simple, you need to put another element to the complexity. So it would be follow the money and who does it benefit or who is affected. So there's two things, because you see it could be follow the money, but then just thinking off the top of my head, let's argue when you talk about dementia, and I'm sure there's going to be a dementia day. When you talk about that, the reason why that now is going to take such a large viewpoint, not only in the media, but in politics, etc., is because we all can get it. So the people of power can get it as well. So therefore, they want to stream monies into it to deal with it and see how we can ameliorate it, because they may well become victims of it. If that were something like, I don't know, rickets you've mentioned, they aren't going to get it. So therefore, why are they bothered about it? And this is what I mean. So it's follow the money, but it's also who can be affected, who is affected. Continue, ladies.
Yeah, I very much agree with you on follow the money, but for me, a large part of it also is follow the distraction.
Very true.
While people are being distracted by things and where their attention is being diverted to, they're not looking anywhere else. There's so many psychology experiments which show if you're focusing on one thing, even if something else is staring you in the face, you just don't notice it. Very true. I feel that these days are used for that as well. Very true.
But also, just to circle back to what you said previously, Dr. Rachel, one of the criticisms, one of the things that the media is often criticised for on health-based, very often on health-based awareness days, not exclusively, but very often, is the use of case studies. Is it a bit mawkish? Is it exploitative? Is it slightly tone deaf to the wants and asks and needs, of a population? Is it inclusive? Circling back to what you said. I mean, it's not such a stupid thing to have an anti-day because, it's not so stupid. I mean, like, look at what's his name in the Lee Anderson. He's standing up against the Tories because they're not being Tory enough on the on the boats, right? But,
you mean that ex-Labour guy?
Yeah, exactly. But it's in an all-inclusive society. Actually, those people with those incredibly polarized views, like if you're going to be genuinely inclusive, right? Then you need to have room for those opinions. And actually, a lot of case studies, like historically, when I've worked on health-based on health-based campaigns, we've always needed to be very mindful that those case studies, for better or for worse, are opening themselves up to the article appearing on an online platform, on an online news platform where people can comment. And that means that those comments might not necessarily be moderated in a way that the PR agency can control, you know, and that might be upsetting for the case studies, especially if they're in a fragile health moment.
So now the interesting thing is, you've mentioned case studies, and this always brings me back to sort of the coefficient of utilising X amount of people and then extrapolating it out towards the whole population. I do not think that is correct.
I hate it.
Can we look at it?
Yeah,
But
I hate
give me a feel.
Carlton. Yeah, as somebody, you know, I'm a researcher myself, and I used to, and that's why I don't really take much heed of most statistics, especially YouGov statistics, which are extrapolating the whole of the population from 2,000 people.
Exactly.
I'm like, no, you just can't do that. You cannot, you know, and there's nobody as variable as a human being. So I completely agree with that. And the same thing with case studies. The reason why they use them is because then, you know, there might be 1% who relate or associate themselves with that person. So it brings it to life, but you're also playing on people's emotions as well. You know, they do this a lot when they do televised fundraising and stuff. There's always case studies, which pulls on the heartstrings, gets you that. And then people are very impulsive, and that's something that's not getting better. People are more impulsive now because they are more limbic system than prefrontal cortex. So they're more impulsive. You can play on their emotions more, so you can get that, you know, follow the money.
Sorry, Dr. Rachel, I've got to stop you on that one, Dr. Rachel. Are you telling me that we are more susceptible now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, more susceptible. You know, in terms of, you know, just look at the past few years in groupthink, how, you know, we are so polarized, in group, out group, the amount of emotion that is out there. Playing on people's emotions. When a message needs to be conveyed, they do it. They use the power of 3 that goes straight to the limbic system. They don't want people to think. Look at the national curriculum. It's all about recall. There's nothing about critical thought processes. You know, people are not encouraged to think anymore. And that has been on a rapid acceleration for the past 10 years, I'd say, but really, you know, sped up in the previous 4 years.
So Fergus, now coming to you and the media side, are you guys conscious of this, and do you utilise what Dr. Rachel's saying to put the media spin on what you're trying to say?
Well, what I'm gonna raise 2 points here. One is, you know, from as a responsible PR agency, you know, we do use case studies, but we spend a lot of time talking them through the process, right? However, right, Dr. Rachel worked with us on a white paper about the menopause last summer, and one of the things that we realised is that in the landscape, you know, obviously you've got the you know, the trolling, right? And look, there are publications, and we don't cut out of this, but there are publications. For example, you know, if they were running a case study about somebody with a skin condition or somebody, you know, that they might use photo enhancement tools to make that condition look worse, right? Because they know that the shock factor will you know, will be more headline grabbing, but at the same time, you know, from that individual, from that case study point perspective, they're leaving themselves more susceptible to negative comments. Now, one of the interesting things that we found from the white paper research that we did about the menopause last year was that there is actually a generation, right, and it is the older generation, who bring in what I'm calling negative stoicism around these health conditions, right, which was actually quite an eye-opener to all of us. I mean, we obviously, you know, Dr. Rachel obviously called it earlier than we did, but the research massively supported that, right? So there is very much a, you know, oh, you know, that person, you know, there is a, it's not just trolling, like, you know, oh, that person's a bad mother for letting her child.
No, it's getting on with it.
Sad. It's the look. Why doesn't that kid just get on with it? In my day, we would have just gotten on with it.
Exactly, because they did,
and all the rest of it, because they did. But it's an interesting narrative, isn't it? Because is that
absolutely
right?
You see, I see that both ways, and this is why I wanted you to delve deeper into this area. And I'm not really speaking about PR companies. I want you to go back, Fergus. I want you to go back into your Fleet Street era, and I want you to think about how Fleet Street has changed things. I'm hearing now on BBC News, which at one stage I thought was pretty good. I'm hearing, and the first thing I heard was stories. Instead of a news article, they call it a story now. So that suggests to me, when I hear the word story, and Dr. Rachel, you can tell me about this, when I hear the word story, surely you then, in your own mind, begin to feel, this is something that's made up. This is something that's not real. It's just a fantasy, a story. So when you're dealing with news, actual events, and you're calling them stories, surely it undermines the strength of the actual event, and you're bringing it more into an entertainment value rather than an educational, a pedagogic value. Can you two guys play around with that for a bit?
Well, you know, for me, storytelling is one of the most important facets of being a human being. But I think, you know, when you ask somebody what a story is, I think most people would agree with you that it's a, you know, something of fiction. And generally stories tend to have more descriptive wording, have more opinions, have more stereotypes, have more descriptives. Whereas, you know, people are conditioned that the news should be objective and it should be statements of facts. You know, and I think the very fact that they're calling them stories now should infer to people that they are not objective statements of facts anymore. But how many people are going to understand that or pick up on the nuances of that? So I think that's quite interesting for me in terms of, if you are saying you are providing news but calling them stories, what is your definition of stories? What are the frameworks that you are working with to say that's a story? Yeah, exactly.
Fergus, is this the case? Have you gone more story bound?
I'll answer this from my side. And actually, it's much closer to your world than you'd think, Carlton. There are many female focused publications. Let's call them weekly, like it's generic to call them women's weeklies, but you know, the sort of magazines I mean, the sort of magazines that you might have historically picked up in the doctors or the dentists or whatever, right? And they might have these shock factor stories where potentially they might have changed the names and you know, slightly abridged the narrative, let's say, right, in order to make right. The system's actually a lot more on the legal side now, you know, for better or for worse. So whilst you can only change the names if you make a good case for it, somebody needs to be under threat or there needs to be a reason. So for example, we did a story recently about a brilliant mum who'd written a story about grief, but actually her child that had passed away was adopted, and she didn't want and she, you know, she couldn't reveal any personal details because about where she lived or what she did or whatever, because the birth mother had some issues and you know, that they were trying to protect the child from the child's siblings from the birth mother. Anyway, so that sort of thing stands as a reason, but in the past you might have been able to use posed images. You might have been able to take the essence of the story, you know, the essence of it, and you know, translate it into real life. At the moment, they're called stories because it is the spokesperson's truth, as they see it, right? It's not something that, you know, the worst case scenario would be that, you know, the police detective picks up the Women's Weekly and goes, oh, front cover headline is, you know, man rapes 3 daughters in the, you know, like in the pantry or something, you know, and then comes knocking at the door. You know, the point is, it's that person's truth, that it's not police evidence.
No, but in the past, when you first joined Fleet Street, did you call, when was that, by the way? I don't want to give you age, but did you call them stories then?
No.
Exactly. That's the point. You didn't call them stories. You know, when I look at something like, let's take it to its 8th degree. Let's take it the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipeline. Okay. Now, you've got a president of the United States who stands with the Bundeskanzler, the German Chancellor, and says that if Russia goes across into Ukraine, right, the Nord Stream pipeline will no longer function, right? Now, take into account the Nord Stream pipeline is in German, Dutch, Norwegian waters, yeah, that the Germans need that pipeline in order to have energy, right? And their energy is everything. A German reporter from a very good paper, Allgemeine Zeitung, right, stands up and says, what do you mean, Mr. President, that this pipeline won't function any longer if the Russians invade? He said, just bear with me, it won't happen. We will make sure that that pipeline won't function anymore. Right. So the invasion happens and the pipeline's blown up. Right. And then every newspaper in the West turns around and says, Russians blew up their own pipeline. What kind of common sense is there in newspaper reporters when the president of the United States says, if he invades, I'll blow it up? The pipeline has cost the Russians, I think, something like $2 trillion to put in place. Right? They're pumping gas to the Germans and to Western Europe that brings them monies in after the cost of them building that pipeline, but they're going to blow it up themselves. When the president of the United States has said openly, just 12 weeks before, we will blow it up if they invade. I mean, come on. What are reporters thinking? Never mind the bits in my world that I can tell you that I know the US are blowing it up. Just reporters thinking very openly. You get Victoria Nuland, who I don't know if you know, Under Secretary of State in the United States. She's the one who did the Maidan coup. By the way, if you don't know, in 2012 there was a coup that got rid of Poroshenko, the Ukrainian. That was set up by the CIA. I'm telling you this now because it's open now. So that was set up by the CIA to happen. Now, she was clapping on the day that it was said, fantastic, we've sorted the Russians out, we've got rid of this pipeline. Right. Now, that again was known about. Why are reporters then turning around saying, oh, this is something that the Russians did?
Well, even if you bring it to now, right, you know, Trump realizes that he gets more publicity by rocking up at court cases than at political rallies, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, where are the reporters? This is the big question. Where is the media? Why have these guys and gals got glasses on that are so dark that they can't see what's shining into their eyes? Look, I have to ask that question.
Okay, well, look, to go back to when I was on papers, like, you know, 2005.
Please.
2005, 2006, right? But back in those days, you would have to get some witness. You would have to get some named witnesses, as it were, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you would basically just have to have some names to back up whatever case study story you were putting through.
But they haven't backed up the fact the Russians have done it. They've just printed it because the government have told them. That's the point I'm making. They're just printing it.
Yeah, but on my side of the fence, i.e., like on showbiz and you know, in real life, okay, right? You'd have to have like 2 corroborators, right? Basically, right? These days now you don't, but what they do is they ask the they give what's called readback, so they'll read back the story, and there'll be a contract between the case study and the publication, right, which is actually there's a lot of room for improvement in that particular contract, and that's a conversation for another day. But things have moved on from whereby historically you'd have to sort of have somebody even if that person was just being bunged a bit of cash to be that person, right? Because those sort of things did happen back in the day.
Of course,
right?
Absolutely.
But now it's the onus is on that that individual case study. But the reason why the system has shifted is so that there can still be plausible deniability that it is fiction.
So let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this, because this is the crux of this whole matter. When you started, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, you saw yourself as a professional, the fourth estate, as you used to call it, of the people who would bring the information to the public. They were real, pucker, you studied, you understood, and you had some value element to it. Are you now telling me that there is no value to it, that they're just stories? This is the point I'm trying to make. Just like all these days you've got, they're just points on a map.
No, you see, I think I'm on the other side of the fence actually. I think that stories bring value. Stories bring value because I know Dr. Rachel said maybe it connects with one person, maybe it connects with two people. Stories bring value because humans are humans and they need to connect in a certain way. So done properly, and done in the right way and done in a sort of non-tone deaf way, then things are great, and awareness days could be great. They could be great because they could be an opportunity for like-minded individuals or people who are going through the same space or people who just really like pies on my birthday.
But Doc, let me put it this way: to connect, I understand you, but what I'm saying is if you're bringing stuff down to the most basic value, and you're taking away from people their own thoughts of considering, so using my Nord Stream. You're not letting the public say, or you are letting the public say, hang on, that can't be right. But for some reason, the public don't say that can't be right. They believe it. So, Dr. H, I want to ask you, why do they believe something that's obviously clearly not the case?
Because they've been conditioned to just take face value at things. And also, if you dare to say, no, that's not right, you get called a conspiracy theorist. So it's the in-group, out-group thing all the time. And people have been conditioned into this line of just acceptance, and they'll listen to the headline, but not many people will care. Not many people will even begin to understand the ramifications of it. Not many people think, well, what happened beforehand? And this is the thing. It's like these news companies, so-called news companies right now, they're not giving news. They're leading people on a trajectory and a path of what they want people to either think or not think. I fully agree with Fergus. For me, storytelling is everything. That's what I do. I tell other people's stories who often don't get a voice. But I have an inquiry in mind. I will ask the right questions, and I will also go behind the unspoken story as well. Now, not many people, do that in this day and age. It's like it's the age of entertainment. Let me entertain you. I just want to be distracted. I don't want to think. I just want to be, led on a journey. And if there's one thing that is guaranteed to trigger my anger, it's when someone talks to me about, all the awareness they've got of themselves because they've been on a healing journey. It's one of the things. It just gets me going. Because that's where we are now. We want to be entertained. It's like poverty porn. When we're watching people who are struggling to live on benefits. Or I believe there's a new one out now where it's about obese people going around the world and just seeing how obese people are treated in different countries, which in some of them is not that nice. And it's entertaining when really what we're doing is exploiting people's vulnerabilities, and we're also ensuring that people only want to believe and only want to sort of raise their head on things that they're told to accept. Below the line in The Guardian is full of people who just want to take things at face value, despite them thinking that they are the world's best intellectuals.
And there, ladies and gentlemen,
Can I just interject?
Please do, Fergus.
Cut this off right quickly. If we're going with 90 song titles with all the titles for all of our, Triangle of Truth podcasts, then she, like Dr. Rachel's just said, "Let me entertain you," like the Robbie Williams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have to stop it because of technical reasons. I have to keep this particular episode, which we'll call part 1, quite short. But we will be straight back next week with part 2, in which I want to look at this idea of vulnerability, which is everywhere. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. Fergus, your thoughts very quickly?
Subscribe, and also thank you to all the listeners who've reached out and said that they've contacted BBC Sounds and not gotten any reply from BBC Sounds. We understand that this is BBC Sounds' problem, not ours, and we are looking into this. We will hopefully be able to report back very soon.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Rachel.
Hello.
Brilliant.
You sound like a Teletubby.
Yeah. with that short, succinct, we'll see you again next week.
I will see you next time. Thank you very much.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe for free.
Here is a working class spy telling his stories, the secrets, the lives of spies. Feel free to message Carlton King on all socials and give this show 5 stars on Apple iTunes and subscribe so you never miss a single episode. For your ears only.
For more than a quarter of a century, I was a member of Her Majesty's Secret Intelligence Service.